against Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, P. Diddy. Well, this case is going to go the same way as R. Kelly. And what I mean by that is look to the fact that there will be no plea. Sean Combs is going to prison, and it's just a matter of how long. Why do I say that as a former prosecutor? Because when you look at the indictment and you read the specifics of it, the U.S. government, the U.S. District Attorney's Office, the U.S. prosecutors, what they've done is they've built their case. We saw Sean Combs' properties get raided. It's outlined in the indictment. Grand juries typically consist of 12 jurors who's already heard evidence viewed in the favor of the federal prosecution. So they've already got a little preview of the evidence. And not only that.
So he's explaining why Diddy is not coming home ever. He's explaining that for the feds to even get this case, he's basically explaining to us that it's an open and shut case. Diddy don't even have a chance, this lawyer says, and he's a former prosecutor. So he's formerly, he used to put people in jail like Diddy. So he's explaining why Diddy is never coming home.
Multiple counts, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Now, that's a huge deal because what we know from the last 6 months after they raided his properties, they were looking for videotapes, they were looking for phone calls, they were looking at any physical evidence to put this together, and it looks like they have it. What's the difference between the feds and the state? State attorney's office, i.e. local, you get arrested, local police department, sheriff's office brings the charge to the prosecutor's office, they review it, and they move forward. Meaning they still have to build their case. Here, when you're talking about a U.S. attorney, they've done their investigation. It's different at the federal level. When they charge you day one, they're going into court and saying, we're ready to go. The only plea, in my opinion, is going to be conditioned upon Sean Combs going to prison. It's going to be
That's crazy. You got to think about that. What he said was the feds, before they even bring charges to you, before they arrest you and charge you with anything, they got all the evidence they need. He said on the state level, it's a lot different because on the state level, they don't have the evidence yet. They arrest you and then the district attorney starts running around sending people out there to get evidence, to find witnesses, but they'll put you in jail first. He said federal level, which is what's going on with Diddy, and he got Kelly on the screen right now. He says that on the federal level, they arrest you after they have 99% of the evidence. And we broke this down previously where I told you guys they have been investigating. And I showed you guys the articles and the indictment on the previous live stream where they've been investigating Diddy since 2008. So they've been compiling information about him since 2008. They've been pretty much putting the case on him, putting a case together for him since then. So that's very interesting information.
Sitting right there next to R. Kelly. And why? Because when you look at this, they reference and they talk about the witnesses that they have. Hotel workers, people from his businesses, friends, associates, sex traffickers. They don't plead with this type of specificity when it happened. Supervisors, security staff,
get the lights
staff.
up.
Go into the illicit detail of what he orchestrated to match the racketeering charge. That means for 6 months, the feds have at least done their homework. The U.S. attorney had enough to take it to a grand jury. The grand jury has come back and said that, yes, criminal acts were committed. In my opinion, don't get it twisted. Even Puff Daddy doesn't have enough money to make this go away. Keep in mind, the U.S. government, U.S. Attorney's Office is the biggest, strongest, and the wealthiest law firm in the world. He's not going to buy his way out of this. In my opinion, as a former prosecutor, they're not going to accept a plea or a fine. He's going to be looking at prison time. The only is
they're not even going to, he said they're not going to accept a plea for Diddy. So Diddy can't even come in and say, yo, I'll plea out to 20 years right now. Nah, we don't want to plea. We wanted to send you to jail, bro.
When and for how long? But when you're a defense attorney and you look at the possible
hit the like button
who can bring it together. And by the way, those civil claims that he settled don't mean anything. That those non-disclosure agreements aren't going to apply to a criminal charge. And why do I say that? Because the feds are going to say, hey,
that's very important. I'm going to rewind what he just said right here. I want you guys to really catch this. This part is extremely important because Diddy has a lot of people on NDAs. So a lot of people were worried, like, how is it going to be possible for Diddy to go to jail when he got all these people on NDAs? So that's very important what he just said. He said that the NDAs, the federal government are throwing the NDAs that Diddy has with different people that could be witnesses. The federal government is going to throw those non-disclosure. Those are going out. That's crazy. So if you have an NDA with Diddy, you work for Bad Boy, it doesn't even matter. The federal government can still call you as a witness. That's what this former prosecutor says.
Don't mean anything. That those non-disclosure agreements aren't going to apply to a criminal charge. And why do I say that? Because the feds are going to say, hey, that's great for your settlement. And it says it's a non-disclosure, but guess what? You're going to be my first witness.
Wow.
And you are going to testify. At the end of the day, I think this indictment is too specific. It goes for too long. And most importantly, they have too much evidence, too many witnesses for him to get out of this thing. I think you can look. One of the biggest icons in the hip hop world is going to be doing prison time.
That's super interesting. Somebody asked, why did the hotel that Cassie or the hotel that Diddy beat up Cassie in, why did they hold the tape for so long? I don't believe that they did. I think the federal government did. They compiled evidence and they're waiting until it's time for the arrest. You know, if I'm the federal government, I'm gonna say we getting all the evidence that we can together, and then we're coming for Diddy when it's time. You know, so I don't think that the hotel was holding the tape. The feds went, got the tape, and they added it to their pile of evidence. They've been investigating Diddy since 2008. So I don't think that anybody's holding evidence. I think that the feds went and got everything, and they're waiting till, you know, the right time. They waited till the right time.
Obstruction of justice to witness tampering. That's a huge statement by a federal judge. Concerned that Sean Combs and or his team is going to try to provide some type of undue influence on the witnesses that are set to testify against them. That goes.
Excuse me. They believe that Diddy is going to tamper with witnesses. They believe that Diddy's going to get out and start blowing up cars again. They believe Diddy. Y'all heard how Diddy was alleged to have blown up Kid Cudi car for trying to date Cassie? They believe that's what Diddy's going to get out and do. So $50 million ain't even enough. You give us 50 million, we still like, nah, you might blow somebody's car up. And you think you Frank Lucas. Y'all remember the scene on American Gangster with Denzel Washington where he blow up the car on Thanksgiving, the cop's car?
Where the Shelby at?
Shelby's gone, Frank.
Shelby's
right
gone.
there.
Or would you rather your house blows up next time?
That's what Diddy thought he was on. Crazy, man.
Goes to the sex trafficking. That goes to the horrendous sexual battery cases and the victims. Trying to get to them. Remember, in a criminal prosecution as a defense attorney, if you have bad facts, bad evidence, it's not going to be he said, she said here. It's going to be a he versus she. It's a criminal enterprise. So what a defense attorney wants to do is he wants to put time between the indictment and the trial, hoping that the state, or in this case, the federal government's case, falls apart. The more time that you can put between the two, maybe witnesses disappear, maybe witnesses recount, maybe somebody's getting paid off. There's a lot of issues, and may run a public relations campaign to try to sway a jury that, in fact, he's the victim, that the federal government is an overreach. They can't tie this to him. He's not being seen in public. There is no good deeds, public relations that he can do. It's no coincidence that they brought him back to New York to surrender. It's no coincidence that you see him in a park. That's all public relations. That's all by design. But the idea is huge victory in terms of a federal prosecutor, and it's going to expedite the case. Why? Remember, I just said we want to put time between the arraignment and the trial. Well, when you're
so basically, in layman's terms, what he's saying is Diddy being in jail is the biggest problem that he has right now. Not just because it's jail, but because he has no opportunity to present himself as the victim or present himself as a human being. He's being painted as a monster, and he can't even defend himself. He said that it was no coincidence that Diddy came back to New York to turn himself in. And if you guys remember, before Diddy was arrested, he was running around. It was all over social media. Diddy is in Harlem. Diddy just popped up over here. He just popped up over there. He's trying to make himself look human. It was a public relations scam. You know, they're trying to make Diddy look like he's not the guy that did all these different things. So when they select the jury, he looks more human. And that's what this prosecutor is saying. The problem that they're having now is Diddy is still locked up. So him being locked up and not able to get bail is a win for the prosecutors, because now the prosecutors don't have to worry about Diddy going around getting good favor from the public.
a client sitting in jail and looking at those cell walls, he wants out of there. He knows his only chance is to either strike a plea, not going to happen, or two, got to get to trial as soon as possible. So it kind of turns things up on the head. Now, Puff Daddy's team's exceptional lawyers, big-time criminal defense guys, but at the end of the day, they're 0 for 2. What I mean 0 for 2 is they try to set up a package, to get out on bail, and it didn't work with the prosecution or the first judge. And number two, they took it a level to kind of think of it as an appeal. We need to go out, no excessive bail. Judge said no, too big of a risk. So here, the judge denying and saying, I'm having too much of a concern. A lot of people will say,
Wow.
hold on now, don't we all have a right to bail? Well, the Eighth Amendment of the Constitution says, yes, you do. You have a right to not have excessive bail, but the idea is that right is
Excessive.
not absolute. And if they find that the public interest or public safety is greater than that, where concern, witness tampering, evidence destruction, the judge can hold you as pretrial confinement.